The nation is still recovering from a rash of scandals around the Department of Veterans Affairs last week. We heard whistleblowers coming out describing widespread patterns of theft, abuse of power, even ripping off medications for sales on the black market, dealing drugs in VA hospitals, being turned away from the administrators there, not paying attention to these problems. We heard about wait lists. And, I could go over some of the headlines from last week that we saw about this, but one of my favorites is from, of course, FoxNews.com. Happy to point this out. Al-Qaeda terrorists at Guantanamo treated better than our vets. And this is a great comparison here because they have the actual number, the ratio of medical providers to patients at Guantanamo versus at America's veterans hospitals. The Gitmo ratio is 1.5 to 1. That means for every 1.5 inmates, they have one healthcare provider. For America's 9 million veterans receiving VA healthcare and 267,930 VA employees, the ratio is 35 to 1. That's right, 35 to 1. And it's great to see that attention is being brought to this issue. As a veteran myself who gets care through the VA, that's the only thing I can afford for healthcare. Yeah, I'm encouraged that such a conversation is happening. And it might have some short-term benefits for myself if I ever find the need to go to a hospital or actually turn to the VA. And of course, I'm pretty loath to go in there considering they tried to commit me last time I went in and told them I was having trouble sleeping, and then gave me 5 prescriptions, 5 prescriptions, 3 of which had suicide listed as a side effect. I'm not really inclined to turn to the VA unless I absolutely have to. And there's an extra layer, I think, this time to the scandal when you look at Obama's rhetoric and you go back. This is from nationalreview.com. Conservatives have been having kind of a field day with this. Obama, 2007, time to end deplorable conditions at some VA hospitals. So, as Senator Obama, railing against the Bush regime, he was all too keen to point out the problems. Last week, of course, he was instead hosting the Seahawks at the White House, playing Little League and playing catch with some random kids on the street in Washington, D.C. in order to tie up traffic and annoy people with his presence just a little bit more in the name of a good photo op to distract people from all of the real problems going on in this country that he's directly responsible for. And it's great. Like I said, it's great to see this outrage. I mean, WorldNet Daily, WND.com jumped in on this too. Obama, 2008, VA will be leader of healthcare reform. Now, here, I don't know why they're taking a problem with this or taking an issue with this because, yeah, the VA is the leader in healthcare reform. When people were talking about Obamacare, like debating whether or not it was going to happen, a lot of veterans were like, hello, over here, have you seen what's going on? Have you seen what's been going on for decades? Yeah, do you really want the government to run healthcare for everybody else too? Are you kidding? There's a problem here. And there's an extra problem with veterans and veterans affairs. And like I said, it's great to hear people talking about this. And America gets to have its, 15 minutes of false outrage. But do the American people really give a shit about veterans? No, absolutely not. If they did, we wouldn't be in this predicament because it's relatively easy to bring the political class to bear on an issue when you have sufficient public support, as you would think at least nominally exists for taking care of veterans. You're not going to hear a lot of people standing against the VA. Oh no, the United States federal government, they really need to cut the VA budget. That's such a waste of money taking care of veterans. But why? You have to ask why. Because if you did give a damn about the troops, about veterans, and if you understand them as suckers, then certainly there's plenty of reason to care about them. But I think if you ask why, you might find yourself in a bigger conundrum because there's a certain cognitive dissonance here. Because if you understand why, and it's not just, oh, well, those politicians, they need to be more accountable to the people. They need to listen to the people when we say we want the vets taken care of. Why does the government want the vets taken care of? It's just another expenditure for them. It's that much less money that they get to spend on their sponsors. Although I will say, as I can attest to from personal experience, the VA is all too eager to compromise the health of veterans in order to serve the needs of the pharmaceutical industry and other parts of the medical lobby. But that's another aside for the drug war and all the ways that, drugs that are helpful, like marijuana or even MDMA, are kept away from the troops and veterans when the kind of stuff that kills them in terms of making them suicidal is, yeah, buy the bucketful, take more pills, please. And it's obviously part of, broader corruption of the American political system. But the only reason for government to take care of veterans is to get people to keep enlisting. You want to improve healthcare at the VA? Stop complaining to politicians. Stop even talking to voters. They're irrelevant. You know who you should talk to? High school kids. Yeah. Tell them that when they get back from war, that their country, their government is going to treat them like a used condom to be discarded, just fucked and thrown away. Because that's what it's all about. We will never have good care for the troops if you understand what the racket is and why they are doing what they do. And the fact that troops are nothing more than paid killers. People who are willing to murder because politicians said it was okay. They will never be taken care of until a non-violent way is found to address people who are victims of government. When we turn to government to take care of its victims, the response is always going to be inadequate. And if you really ask why, see, and this is why the American people don't want to ask these questions. It's easier to live in cognitive dissonance. It's easier to just say, well, we support the troops. When we hear about a scandal, we call our congressman. Yeah, we give our 15 minutes of false outrage and we make sure they know that we're outraged. Because if you ask why, really wanted to know the answer, and we're inquiring with an open mind, the only rational conclusion you could come to is that the troops are suckers. And that all of the emotion you've invested in supporting the troops and winning the wars and go Team America is wasted. Because we've all been suckers. Because we've all fallen for this. So the default position for the government for taking care of the troops when they come home is really no care at all. And they will only offer care to the troops to the extent that it's necessary to convince people to join up. Until that changes, the vets will always be getting screwed by government.
Did pretty well part of the way, but...
So now you're comparing Mitt Romney to a Ford Focus. It's hard to let go of fear, isn't it?
You're becoming part of a system of material support for the actions of our military.